short of maximum impact. And this is going to sound a bit strange because I get that we are all flat out all the time, but I'm going to ask you to please just suspend your disbelief for right now, because Enrique and I are going to argue that to push past these myths that create the cybersecurity business misalignment, to unlock the true value as cybersecurity professionals, we're going to argue that you need to take on a minimum effective mindset. A mindset across business, enablement, cyber technology, and people. Not minimum viable, because that means throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. Exciting, but not a great idea if you're in cybersecurity, am I right? Minimum effective is a deliberate ROI-driven approach to unlocking cybersecurity's true value. By minimum, we mean rethinking your inputs versus effort, moving away from maximum effort all the time to focus on the outcomes we're trying to create. Effective refers to your change in your impact, your ability to go beyond merely defending the fort to truly and distinctly creating value.
And mindset refers to make this a way of thinking and behaving across everything we do. Not only because you have a limited resources, but because maximum effort actually works against us. You and I, we put maximum effort in everything we do. And this not only is slowing us down, it's actually sending us in the wrong direction. 73% of CISOs, they have experienced burnout in the past 12 months. And if the boss is feeling, you know the entire department is feeling it too. So this keynote is about minimum effective mindset, and use this as a programmatic response to unlock value in cyber. We're going to help you chart a course or a map to break away from maximum effort. And our time together here will show you examples from Banco Santander in Spain, for example, or Johnson & Johnson and the Cherokee Nation business here in the States. We also show you some practical tools, research, and benchmarks from Gartner analysts. So whatever you see in the organization, no matter if you're the newest member in the SOC or if you're the CISO, it's your responsibility to challenge those myths that perpetrate this business and cyber misalignment, that hold you back from doing more, from being more. We want you to use this minimum effective mindset as your guide. So let's destroy some myths.
Let's do it. So the first myth we're going to debunk to unlock cybersecurity's ability to create true, genuine mission value, the myth that more risk analysis somehow equals better protection. This is challenging, I know, but this myth lies at the heart of the misalignment between us and our business or mission. So why do we do this? The enterprise makes all of its decisions using ROI calculations. So it's reasonable for us to expect that in cybersecurity we should do the same, to show the payoffs of the investments that we make. And usually it looks a little something like this.
Yeah, we convert a risk to a timeline and dollars, and we show business alignment, and voila, the business takes action, right?
No, they don't.
No, they don't, and at least not very often. And that leaves us feeling like this guy here, all right? So action should have been taken. They, the enterprise, they asked us, cybersecurity, to quantify risk, and we did. So why is there this misalignment?
Well, if the myth of more risk analysis equal more protection drives us to say that maybe we just haven't done enough analysis. Maybe the business, they just don't get the urgency yet. Cue the deployment of more math, right? Maybe that's what we should do to drive action with the business, threaten them with even more quantification. You take ownership of your risk, or I will unleash more math on you.
Yikes. So we know the auto insurance, for example, and health insurance industries, they use likelihood and impact to price risk. However, because every organization is different, there's no way to predict the likelihood of a successful cyber attack.
Oh, if you do nothing, it's 100%.
100%, my friend. So imitation in our world is not the best form of flattery. The calculation of likelihood, more analysis, will drive us to maximum effort. It's preventing us from creating value. But don't worry, there's a better way to help us unlock value.
Gartner's solution to the myth of more risk analysis is something that we're calling minimum effective insight. Minimum effective insight is the pursuit of the least amount of information necessary to make a good business decision. After all, Whatever risk an enterprise isn't paying for, they are accepting.
They're accepting.
Well, minimum effective insight makes that risk assessment explicit. And it drives better decision making in both cybersecurity and our business.
Even the insurance companies I spoke about, right? So they no longer rely on just the historical data to price their policies anymore, right? So how many of you here have an app on your phone from your alt insurance company that will offer you some discounts if you're a good driver, right? So those are leading indicators of behavior, like how fast you drive, how often you brake, if you're texting while you're driving. And Gartner is recommending that we use some similar approach here for cybersecurity. We have developed 16 leading indicators to help you deliver maximum effective insight. Let's take a look here. Take the metric in the upper right corner here, the third-party risk engagement. What information do you need, you ask me? Well, just two things. And I told you this was minimum, right? Performance on the metric and the cost of maintaining that performance. In our example, they're investing $500K to address some percentage of vendors' shortcomings. In other words, they're accepting all the rest of those shortcomings. And now that they know that, what do? Now they can explicitly make an outcome-driven decision. Fund more cybersecurity or accept the risk. With just 2 data points. So, the next time somebody asks you, what's the likelihood of one of my vendors getting hacked? I want you to have the confidence to say, it's 100%. And that means you have a choice to make. You can prepare for remediation or invest in prevention.
I explain it to CISOs like this. Just imagine you were going to start a company that outsourced your cybersecurity function. What would you have to do? Well, you would need to define a set of services that you would offer. And you would need some way to price and measure successful delivery of those services, right? Well, this is just that packaged up for you. Earlier, Enrique told you that the minimum effective mindset is a programmatic approach to delivering maximum value. Come what new thing may, right? Things like, well, generative AI. Folks, minimum effective insight is even more important when the enterprise and cybersecurity landscapes are constantly changing. You don't have time to overanalyze. Minimum effective insight is going to be a moving target, and it's got to be okay, as long as you have good capabilities for keeping the pulse. To maintain and update your minimum effective insight, you really need to operate cybersecurity like an R&D function.
100%.
Gartner's Tapestry framework is designed to help you do exactly that. Each with a discussion guide that will spur you and the appropriate business partners to forecast opportunities and risks associated with trends ranging from the metaverse to deglobalization to the industrialization of space and more. If you want to learn more about Tapestry, our good friend Marty Resnick is delivering a presentation, Being a Futurist in the Age of Persistent Disruption, by the Gartner's Futures Labs tomorrow at noon.
I love Marty.
He's great.
In summary, you don't need sophisticated analysis of cyber risk to drive your business to optimize its investment in cyber. That's a myth. Minimum effective insight. What you need is outcome-driven metrics to show you your business, whatever they're not paying, they are accepting. Plan for moving targets in both costs and protection with guided R&D using Tapestry.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, I think we got this one. Myth busted.
My friends, we busted the first of our 4 myths, right? So we've gone from more risk analysis to minimum effective insight. 3 myths to go. Are you with me? Yes. Okay. Myth number 2. This is a good one. It's my favorite, actually. More tools equals better protection. Right? The vendors can feel it. Well, and as a technologist myself, man, it's hard not to be extremely impressed by this conference, the showcase floor. I like it. The world's best collection of cybersecurity technology vendors, they're here. Woo! Come on. Can't you feel this magnetic
feel it.
attraction to the exhibition floor where they can find technology solutions for shrinking the attack surface or protecting against identity threats? The swag.
Yeah, I love it. But that magnetic attraction that feels so good, it is based on another pervasive myth. This idea that just around the corner, there's some technology that is coming to save us or kill us. But ultimately, we think that it is this seeking mindset itself that sets us up for failure. It causes us to buy or acquire before we're quite sure we know whether there will be truly additive value to a tool. You see, for all the interest we hear from you and your peers about vendor and tool consolidation, and 75% of you are telling us that you're currently working to consolidate your vendors.
Good job.
Gartner actually takes a lot more calls related to exploring new technologies than we do about consolidation or reductions. It is like lions and tigers at XDR, oh my. Cybersecurity shops around the world seem to be in the more technology business.
And well, yeah, man, I take calls about that all the time. What's the best solution I can buy? And there's an example from my world, okay, access management. One of the markets that I cover, spending it grew double digits in 2022. It's a $5 billion market today, access management. Take cloud security, for example, or SSE. Grew 35%. So, you know, you and I, Lee, when we're not advising clients, we happen to be musicians, right? So I know you are familiar with the concept of gas.
Not that kind of gas, though it is a type of gas that many middle-aged dudes do tend to suffer from.
Yeah, I'm talking about gear acquisition syndrome. And as a musician, when I feel stuck, sometimes when I feel lack of inspiration or motivation, I usually think, maybe what's missing is that piece of technology I saw online. That is what I need to get creative. You know, that white Olympic Stratocaster so I can sound like Hendrix, and perhaps this will unlock the best music in my life.
I think you should get it anyway, though I have
I need
no
to ask
idea
my wife,
what he's
but-
talking about. Honestly, in the time that it took us to write this keynote, I legit bought 3 synthesizers and yet another drum machine.
Embarrassing, man. So, but Lee, we see it happening in other disciplines too. For example, if I buy these high-tech shoes, I will eventually start working out again. Or if I buy this new fastest phone, or a new VR, AR headset, I'll be more productive. The myth is that this thing is the only thing preventing me from doing more, from being more.
Enrique, I feel you. But right now, if I'm in the audience, if I'm one of you, I might be feeling a little bit persecuted, so I want to be clear here. The technological rat's nest that we all have in place isn't just you good folks chasing the next bright, shiny thing. A lot of the times in cybersecurity, we've inherited architectures we didn't design, and you just can't clean it all up at once. A lot of cybersecurity technology is driven by the technology choices of other parts of the enterprise, so sometimes what looks like gear acquisition syndrome is just us plugging holes we didn't create. It's a little bit like that, the Winchester Mystery House.
Oh.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there.
160 rooms, 147 builders, 0 architects.
Lots of ghosts.
Sound familiar? Just like the architectures that are forced on you.
It's tough, my friend. It's tough. And the worst part is, even with all that spending, most organizations, they still feel they're not properly protected. And they're right to feel that way. More than 80% of organizations, they have suffered an identity breach in the last 12 months. So the reality is, folks, more tools, more often than not, leads to this maximum effort, not maximum impact. We can't control what other people have done in our enterprise, like building those stairs to lead nowhere or windows that open to a wall. Those are holes we did not create. I get that. All we can do is to control what we in cybersecurity do.
So what do we do? Well, if the solution to our first myth was minimum effective insight, then the solution to the myth of more tools equals better protection is minimum effective tool set. The fewest technologies required to observe, respond, and defend the exploitations of the enterprise's exposures. And by the way, we say exposure here rather than vulnerability deliberately. This is part of that minimum effective mindset switch. There are an infinite number of possible vulnerabilities out there, but only a finite amount of exposure. The path to a minimum effective tool set is twofold. First, we apply a human cost lens to our portfolio, because tools don't operate themselves. It's one of the drivers of maximum effort is how far we have to stretch people. Second, make interoperability and adaptability core design principles. Let's talk about the human cost lens first. The way that the folks at Cherokee Nations do this is absolutely brilliant.
I love it.
Over and above what the vendor tells you that the tool does, Cherokee Nation adds 3 metrics to capture the actual cost of a tool: the human cost lens, interoperability, and staff alignment. These are all human cost-oriented perspectives on whether the tool is additive to or subtractive from your ability to protect the enterprise. Again, because tools don't manage themselves.
They don't. And the Cherokee Nation business are making better choices about where to invest, disinvest, or hold steady from a technology perspective because they explicitly consider the human cost. They pivoted from maximum effort to maximum impact. Now, the minimum effective toolset approach also takes a technical, an architectural approach. Okay? And part of that architectural lens is aggressively pursuing platform consolidation. The audience here and our clients, they're telling us they want less tools, not more. In identity, my clients are asking me if they can have a converged platform for access management, IGA, and PAM. The answer is yes, you can. These platforms are a great way to achieve some simplification. And not all companies need best of breed all the time, and using a lightweight IGA capability as part of a converged platform, it may be the best option for a lot of companies. So just like using a cell phone, for example, right? So it will be it will be able to get some decent and very good results, perhaps even better than carrying a heavyweight DSLR camera.
The broader architectural lens that we're seeing, the thing that is actually going to accelerate or grease the wheels of platform consolidation and really just rock us towards that minimum effective tool set, is something we're calling cybersecurity mesh architecture.
And some of the audience here will be familiar with this, the Cybersecurity Mesh, or CSMA, which, by the way, we're launching version 2.0 at this conference. Hello, Patrick Heveshi. It makes it easier for you to use the principle of minimum effective tool set as your North Star.
Right.
And why is it so painful to integrate tools, to replace tools, and to make decisions about adding tools? Well, because vendors, they do not design for that kind of flexibility, which is nuts. Guys, come on. Given how quickly the environment is changing, the mesh architecture is actually about allowing you to own your architecture. So it's about the connections between this technology. So we should start thinking about this tool shall pass as a design principle of your technology portfolio. So the apps of today are now way less monolithic, and they're embracing microservices because agility and adaptability are essential to give the rate of change we need. CSMA is how we in cybersecurity get rolling with that agility, modularity, flexibility, interoperability journey. The myth is more tools equal better protection. The evidence, tools per client continue to grow, and there's dissatisfaction with the quality protection, and breaches are on the rise. The solution? Minimum effective tool set. This comes where maximum impact. Use the 3 metrics from the Cherokee Nations, human cost view, remember? The overhead of cyber professionals managing the tool, it should be lower than the value of the tool. And move to a cybersecurity mesh architecture. It's how we bring the adaptability to our technology tools that we can't expect from the vendors all the time. Embrace simplicity, composability, interoperability, and a mindset that says, this too shall pass.
So, I think we got that one too, didn't we?
We got it.
Myth
busted.
All right. Friends, we've just busted the second of 4 of our myths. We've gone from more tools to a minimum effective tool set. 2 myths to go. Myth number 3, and I know you guys feel it, more cyber pros will equal better protection.
Ooh.
That if only we had enough good people, we could truly protect the enterprise. Now, before anybody objects, we know that our industry is under a massive talent crunch. I get that. And one of the very real reasons why we end up in the maximum effort camp is because we are literally expected to do more and be more than the laws of physics will allow us to be. And we want you to invest in talent. We do, I really do. But those investments have got to be strategic. And they need to be realistic. ISC Squared recently came out with a statement that said that there's a shortfall of 3.4 million cybersecurity experts. The US Department of Labor stats said that demand for cybersecurity professionals increased by 65% last year alone. Now, this isn't hyperventilating management consultancies or vendors trying to make these bold claims. These are trusted industry cohorts and serious government statisticians. These are huge numbers.
Huge.
The demand for, the supply-demand asymmetry is just incredible. Now and I know you will feel this shortfall, and the enterprises we support feel it too, because they are constantly waiting for cybersecurity to bless whatever it is that they're working on. Demand has so far outstripped supply in this brave new digital era that we cannot keep up.
We can't keep up.
We can't.
And now, this supply-demand asymmetry that we see every day, that's definitely real. It is real. But the root cause is we continue to believe that only cyber pros can do serious cyber work. Where are we going to get all these additional people? We aren't. The solution to the supply-demand gap, it actually lies in the demand itself. Let's unpack it, Lee.
All right, right on. At this point, most people know that there's been a democratization of technology and analytic work at most organizations. There's more happening outside of central IT and divisional IT functions than inside. Put another way, what we once called shadow IT is now business as usual, right? Not because central IT departments have been deemed too slow or too expensive or any of the old other tropes, but because CEOs and managers see broad-based technology work as essential to their digital transformation initiatives. One of the key manifestations of those ambitions? Today, 41% of employees are business technologists. Employees who are not in IT, but are rather acquiring, adapting, and adopting and creating technology and analytics for work. And Gartner expects that percentage to grow to 77% by 2027. Now, we predicted this back in 2018 when we said that every business function will become or incorporate a technology function by 2025, and we are well on our way. Looking at this trend line, you pretty quickly realize that if we only have real cyber pros doing true cyber work, then we cyber pros are going to end up spending our entire day doing things like approving exception requests and filling in risk assessments all day long, every day. Given the maximum effort won't even get us to where the enterprise needs to be. Innovation, even business as usual is going to stall unless we can somehow magically come up with 3.5 million more cyber professionals, right? Here's the thing. When you just say that number out loud, 3.4 million, it just sounds completely nuts. There aren't 3.5 million more cyber professionals coming out there, no matter how fast they can learn threat hunting on YouTube. Trying to keep cybersecurity in charge of every decision is like trying to keep the tide from coming in.
100%. But the good news is that what looks like a problem, Lee, if we think about the democratization of IT as increasing this gap between supply and demand, well, it's actually pushing us towards the solution. The solution to the myth of more cyber pros equals air protection is minimum effective expertise. Taking the incredible expertise housed in your team today and transferring it to those business technologists in a strategic way. It's about building only as much expertise as required by non-tech people, or removing the need of developing that expertise with technology like AI. Why not? Gartner calls that cyber judgment, which is getting employees to expertise or tech they need so that they can make informed decisions. Our benchmarks show that there are big benefits in embracing cyber judgment.
Business technologists with cyber judgment are twice as likely to avoid introducing additional risk into their enterprise. This also has the delightful side effect of making them more than twice as likely to help their enterprise realize digital value. This means you can simultaneously reduce risk, helping the enterprise all without having to bring on additional FTEs. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, but now, if you question the ability to build this cyber judgment in your fellow employees, that's fair. But think about this way. If 41%, or what you said, like half of your organization today is doing technology work, and your enterprise is not on fire, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here listening to us, right? That means some of those business technologies are already doing some cyber things right. Your mandate? Scale this.
Scale it.
Take the minimum effective expertise that exists in pockets around your enterprise and make it business as usual everywhere.
Here's an example from the smart folks at Johnson & Johnson. One of the cool things that J&J do is that they have weaponized their acceptable use policy for technology, and they put it in their portal as a pop-up. You can see it right here. Their insight, they recognize that business technologists aren't operating in the context of a traditional IT project. They're not waiting in that long queue we showed you earlier. They're experimenting. So they need to know exactly what good security looks like in the moment that they want to create that technology in whatever context they're operating in.
Hey, that's shadow security? That's cool. So the employees are actually helping J&J executing security tasks?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And we said the same thing from the symposium stage 5 years ago. Instead of trying to stomp out shadow IT, we need to cultivate it. We need to cultivate it. J&J's self-service setup, which starts with a do-it-yourself assessment of your activities, auto-loads based on your answers. It provides tutorials, simplified code libraries, automated security tooling, or if your work is going to take you beyond the company's acceptable use policy, it sets business technologists up to develop the required competency to self-administer their work. And if something does require the use of sensitive data or new processes, J&J pairs that business technologist up with an IT buddy or a fusion team.
A buddy.
J&J's posture isn't to say no. It's to help the business technologist develop competence. In this case, the competence to assess the riskiness of what they're doing and to explore how to either self-manage that risk or partner with experts to co-manage it. Thanks to this practice, cybersecurity has helped facilitate over 100,000 business technology efforts, saving the enterprise tens of thousands of employee hours, all without adding a single cybersecurity FTE. How's that for scaling cybersecurity, right?
That is the power of minimum effective expertise, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can look out here, okay, and see faces wondering, how do they motivate, right? How do they motivate business technologists to take this additional cybersecurity work?
Well, the same way that you motivate everybody else, by enabling them to go faster. One executive from a North American insurance company we spoke to testified that once they made the connection between owning their group's cybersecurity outcomes and timelines, they were able to improve their team's speed to market dramatically.
No kidding.
In summary, help is not on the way. It isn't. We have an unsolvable supply and demand gap. There are not enough cyber pros. So what do? We have to do what all enterprises do when they're faced with these kinds of issues. We must scale differently. Our means to do that is minimum effective expertise. Understand what people are trying to do, and then use the appropriate combination of competency building and technology to compensate for the gap. Build cyber judgment in your workforce like J&J does. Friends, it is a myth that folks outside of cyber can't handle serious cybersecurity work, and that is a good thing, because you would need about 3.5 million more people to police them if they weren't up to the task. You and your team should be thinking about what is that right combination of skill development and technology that enables these people to do more than they can do today.
We done it.
That one too. Myth busted. All right, my friends, we have just busted our third of fourth myths. We've gone from more cyber professionals to minimum effective expertise. Just one to go. Our fourth and final myth on the way to ending the cyber, non-cyber misalignment and unlocking our ability to truly amplify value is more control equals better protection. Very specifically, we're talking about user controls here.
Interesting.
This is the idea that users are the root of all evil, and I know that everybody in this room believes that. We feel like we got to bubble wrap people for their own good to keep them safe, and this is the easiest myth to believe in because it is the one with the most evidence supporting it. I can list out all the benchmarking data from the Verizon breach report to whoever is trying to sell you better protection from malware, but all we need to do is just look at the experience in this room.
Right. This room here is full of cybersecurity professionals with actual experience of humans causing security incidents. So let me show here by a quick show of hands, how many of you have borne witness of a security incident that was tracing back to an enterprise employee? All right, close to 5,000 people, Leah, so 100%.
Yeah, right.
So not only this room validate that employees behave badly, employees themselves admit it. So fresh data from Gartner's global benchmarking across every behavior you can name, the majority of employees admit they do the insecure thing. It's easy for everyone to see people as the root cause of all evil, given what we just shared. And of course, we need quality control in place to protect them. But here's the thing, before we jump and add more and stronger controls, apply more human bubble wrap, we should pause, because this myth is not whether people behave insecurely. They do.
They do.
We all do.
They all
We all
do.
do.
We all
We all
do.
do. We also asked employees if they knew their behavior was a risk to the enterprise. 93% of employees surveyed said they were aware they were behaving securely.
They're aware, and they're behaving insecurely anyway. Of course they are.
They knowingly, insecurely for reasons, and they're doing this for speed and convenience. We've nailed the whole awareness thing. Okay? The average organization spends between 5 and 10% of the annual budget in delivering awareness campaigns. And per the data, those work. People are aware.
They are aware that they don't behave securely. So did we just light 10% of our budget on fire? Was all that investment in awareness wasted?
No. Many organizations, they are required to perform those awareness campaigns. And what this is another example of maximum effort for minimum impact. The real problem is that behaving securely is hard. That's the reality. Best practices in our industry have made it hard. User experience today feels like that video game, Pitfall. You guys remember that, Pitfall? Atari? You know, scorpions, quicksand, crocodiles. This is how users feel and experience cybersecurity today. It's a lot of friction. Whether it's having to authenticate 10 times a day, or rules to how or where they can store data. Employees have to jump over a lot of crocodiles to do the right thing. So, more controls often lead to maximum effort. Look at the audience. I'm sure you are not perpetuating this madness.
No, these people don't, of course.
No. But maybe you know a friend CISO who does.
I'm just going to put it out here straight. Controls that are circumvented are worse than no controls at all. And we have a lot of them. And a lot of circumvention going on, pairing the benchmark data you just saw about employee behavior. So Enrique, are we saying that this is like a problem we created for ourselves? Is it our fault?
It's both, okay? It's both. Yeah, we create the security, right? We build those controls. We build the ropes, quicksand, and scorpions. We build those. But it's also an employee problem. They don't actually communicate back to us when they face friction. They simply proceed with that insecure behavior.
They just do it.
But now that we know the friction is out there, we have an obligation to reach out to them, to acknowledge the friction exists. We must show intent in helping them by making the secure thing the easiest thing to do. It's about figuring this out. Zero friction is just as bad as maximum friction. But there should be a balance point, right? We find the right balance, we solve the myth of more control equals more protection. Minimum effective friction.
Minimum effective friction. I love that. And I feel like we're seeing a trend here. Balancing controls with the least drag on the user experience. We've seen some amazing examples of cybersecurity organizations practicing what Enrique just referred to as minimum effective friction to bring our minimum effective mindset to life.
Take the cybersecurity functions at Banco Santander in Spain. They're taking a page from the user experience playbook, and they have applied 5 UX principles. You see them here on the slide to understand where the friction is for the employee. Maybe they got an exception request that prompted this. Maybe they're seeing repeated policy violations. And asking this type of questions keep the security team laser focused on improving the user experience, smoothing out those bumps. And even when they can't eliminate or redesign, at least they're communicating better, showing their support, the commitment to the user as the center, not the technology.
All right, if I'm reading the room now, and I feel like I am pretty well, although I can't see everybody, I feel like they're wondering, if we can actually redesign and create friction or reducing the friction of a control without also reducing security.
We have to, man. Yeah. We have to. Because as you just said, a control that's bypassed is worse than no control at all. We see many clients having to, experiencing success with different approaches that do reduce friction. Getting rid of passwords in the login flow, or using things like Windows Hello for Business. Passkeys, anybody? Bringing more and more apps under a single sign-on, for example, which eliminates a step my clients tell me they hate, or taking advantage of adaptive access controls so that employees are only prompted with MFA when they are behaving in a really risky way. So just like J&J, we never say no, okay? We show an alternative that is both more secure and more convenient to the user. Remember, convenience is king.
Convenience is king. And there is a lot of real value being created here, smoothing out unnecessary bumps in the employee experience of cybersecurity. This will improve security because people will not be circumventing controls. One of the core principles of user experience practice is engaging with your audience, your customer, whatever you want to call them, and co-creating rather than dictating solutions.
That's exactly what the most effective organizations are doing today, reducing friction. That generates measurable, meaningful improvements in secure behavior, making the secure option the easiest option for the user. And figuring out what is the lower friction option is, in collaboration with the consumer, the employee base experience that control, that's gold.
Gold.
So actually designing security controls together with the user increases the likelihood of secure behavior by 23%.
In summary, we need to become obsessed with the employee experience of cybersecurity. Our top priority is to make the secure thing to do the easiest thing to do. Bring literal consumer or user experience competency into cybersecurity like Santander does. Use what you learn from applying user experience principles to co-create frictionless or minimum effective friction controls with employees. I think we got this one too.
We got it.
Myth
busted.
Friends, with busting the fourth and final myth, you are now ready to chart that path from, frankly, maximum effort and maximum misalignment to unlocking the true potential and opportunity for value in cybersecurity. Take on the minimum effective mindset. That mindset will enable you and your teams and the broader enterprise to deliver maximum impact. And I just want to say here, by the way, that we're not foolish for having believed these myths.
No.
Heck, there's still many myths that I believe in because they make complicated things less complicated.
We're only foolish if we keep to our old ways and we don't gain new insight. And I think, Lee, in challenging these myths here today, those 4 myths, we gained some pretty compelling insight. Based on what we learned today, we developed 3 essential strategies.
First, minimum effective everything. Insight, tools, expertise, and friction.
Secondly, be human-centric everywhere. Embrace security user experience. Develop cyber judgment everywhere.
Everywhere. Lastly, perpetual R&D. Use Gartner's cybersecurity research mesh to drive tool adoption. Use Tapestry and sci-fi prototyping to guide agile R&D. And by the way, just because I like shiny new things too. It's not gear acquisition syndrome if it's part of your strategic roadmap.
Okay. I want to say one more thing here. We spent a lot of time talking about those myths. And well, I want to remember, this is not about myths, okay? This presentation today is about creating the opportunity.
Opportunity.
The opportunity to unlock new value. This is what this presentation is about. We've shown you other leaders that have done it, how they're able to do more, to be more. This will enable you to move ahead faster and further than your rivals can, which is an unbeatable value proposition.
Unbeatable.
So as we have brutally destroyed those myths here, of course, there are more myths out there. We need to be relentless in finding and challenging those myths too. So the final thought I want to leave with you is 2 words, okay? 2 final words. You ready? Maximum impact, everybody.